Welcome everybody to the Algo Grande weekly webinar. The purpose of this webinar is to introduce anyone that doesn't know about us to our company, our people, our story, the project that we are advancing. Um, Before I start, if anybody has any question, please submit them in the um, Q&A button at the bottom, or you can raise your hand and we can unmute you. Um, if you have any questions, and we can take care of those after the presentation is over. So this is our management team. Myself as the CEO, I was the one of the co-founders of the project, um, part of the transition to acquire the project from Minorum Gold and Infinitum Copper to acquire 100% of the Adelita project in Mexico, which we're gonna cover. Joao Roca, he's our VP of Exploration. He's a very talented European geologist who's worked for the likes of BHP, Plethora Private Equity, and he's also could be considered a co-founder because he's been with us from the very beginning. Tim McCutcheon and Kevin Ma were the founders of Canadier, which was the company's previous iteration. They are a mining executive. They have a lot of experience on their hand. They've worked on a number of public mining companies. And then at the bottom, we have Gord Neal and Peter McGaw, who were Mag Silver very early on founders. I mean, Dr. McGaw, Peter McGaw was the discoverer of the Juanicipio project, which was acquired for $2.1 billion by Pan American Silver. And Gord Neal, I believe, joined shortly after Mag Silver was started and founded. So we're lucky to have those gentlemen on the team. And then we have Michael Williams, who's a very seasoned mining executive with a serious exit track record. He sold Underworld Resources to Kinross for $140 million. And then we have John McVeigh, who's a mining engineer, and we'll get into why that is important in our project. So our strategic partners on the ground, it's very important to talk about that right away. Peter McGaw and Cascabel, his consultancy, geological consultancy, is based out of Hermosillo, Sonora, 4 hours away from our project. Peter McGaw and Cascabel are an integral part of this project and team because they're able to get to the project very quickly. They know the project inside out. They know the communities. They're the reason why we were able to secure a social license right away. A social license, for those that are, sort of new to the space, is when the communities that is close to the project allows you to enter and to conduct work. It's a pivotal step to get your drill permits and later on your mining permits. Um, as we mentioned before, Peter, was the founder of Mag Silver, and the Juanicipio project was his baby and discovery that was sold recently for 2.1 billion. Cinco de Mayo was recently spun out of Mag Silver prior to their prior to them being acquired to Apollo. And that's a great project as well. And then the Platosa project in Mexico was also a very high profile project that he was a part of. Um, why are we focusing on copper? My partner Joao Roca and I were very, very convinced that we were about to begin we were going to be in a copper bull market. So far, that proves to be right. We think it's only the beginning, as we see the supply and demand actually starting to really divert. Right about now, this year is when you start to see the real drop in supply and pickup in demand. Why is that happening? You have renewable energy and the drive to electrify our world. That needs a lot of copper. Copper's been deemed the new oil. You have the emergence of artificial intelligence, which, as many of you guys know, is dominant in terms of technologies that people are using now on a day-to-day basis, and obviously, copper is a big part of creating those chips and that infrastructure. needs to be built, and that will increase 6 to 7 times the demand by 2050 um, for those technologies. Data centers follow the exact same trend, and of course, EVs are going to be a big part of the story as well. So copper is in a what we believe a long-term bull market, and we wanted to build a vehicle that was highly leveraged to the price of copper. Um, and when I say highly leveraged, what I mean is a project that has the potential to be discovered in the right time frame, and while the bull market is taking place, that there is no better time to advance an exploration project where a discovery is made. That's when the stock market tends to reward copper projects, copper exploration projects, obviously the most. Um, Comparable companies, this is kind of a good slide to give to ground some of what we're talking about. So we have the Adelita project right now has a roughly 50 million US dollar valuation. Um, these other companies that you see here are that start at 69 million and then well exceed over 100 million US dollars. They are here on this chart with us for a reason. We believe that the amount of copper in the fourth section down, the resource here, that has been delineated and discovered by these companies, this is within our target of what we will be able to do. Obviously, this is not a guarantee. There is risk along the way, but we believe we acquired the project because we believe this amount of copper discovery is possible. So 50 million tons, north of 50 million tons. So the in terms of value creation for investors, we do have a lot of value that we can create in the next 2 years. Our capital structure is the following for anybody that's interested in structure, which is very important for these type of young junior companies. We're proud to say we have a very, very clean structure. There's only 32 million shares outstanding. And there's a good breakdown here. So insiders and strategics are 60 million of that 32 million. The acquisition from Infinitum and Minorum Gold, the previous owners of this project, they received 3.1 million shares of our company in exchange for the project. And then we did a $3.8 million subscription receipt financing to launch the company. We closed that in December of 2025. That's 10 million shares. And finally, legacy shareholders are 1.9 million shares. So, great is king. This is a famous quote from Peter McGaw. We could not agree more. Copper, especially in copper, this is very important. Um, one of the reasons we acquired this project is because we saw the historic intercepts in this project were exceeding 1%, sometimes as high as 4% copper. And so, we certainly have a high grade project here. That is what we're going after, is a high grade skarn porphyry system. Um, we are located in the south of the state of Sonora. For those that don't know, Sonora produces 80% of the copper in Mexico. And most of this copper, if not all of this copper, finds its way to Asia from the port of Guaymas. China is the predominant buyer. As you can see, this is a thriving copper region that we find ourselves in. In our proximity, we have two very important projects to take note of. We are just a few kilometers away from Pan American Silver's Alamo Dorado mine. This produced 66 million ounces of silver, very large silver producer. And we are 50 kilometers away from the Cobre del Mayo Piedras Verdes project. This is the third largest porphyry mine, copper mine in Mexico. And they know about our project very well. When myself and Joao visited the project in October 2025, we visited their mine and had a great conversation. with their management team. So now we jump into our license. It's a district scale mining license, 6,000 hectares. As you can see here to the left is the Alamo Dorado Pan American Silver Mine. Zooming into our license, this is a simplified sort of visualization of our main targets. So this mountainous region here is where we find the Skarn corridor. It's a limestone corridor. Limestone is the contact rock where the copper high-grade scar mineralization accumulates against. Um, and along this 6 kilometer corridor, we have a main discovery here. This is the historic discovery, meaning it was discovered by other operators before we took it over. It occurs in a 300-meter zone. We'll dive a little bit deeper into that. But what's important to take from this slide is that we are focused predominantly in expanding the discovery in this area. And then we're going to be also putting a lot of attention and focus in proving out additional skarn pockets along the 6 kilometer trends, where we believe we'll have additional pods of high-grade scar mineralization. Additionally, we do have a porphyry target over here in Mesquital. This is a 4.5 kilometer soil sample anomaly with copper and molybdenum, and it's very interesting. We do plan to do some work there, as well as in Las Trancas, which is a hydrothermal target to the southwest of the project that actually shares a lot of similarities to the Alamo Dorado silver mine next door. So now this is a satellite view of what we just spoke about. And again, Cerro Grande, the Skarn zone in Cerro Grande, where the historic discovery is our principal focus. That's where we're actually drilling currently. We'll have the first results of that drill program come out hopefully by the end of January 2026. And again, this is the 6 kilometer corridor that we were speaking about. These are the additional zones where we could find additional skarn. This is the porphyry target. This is the hydrothermal target. Up north here, we haven't talked about this, but this is an additional skarn target where we think we might be able to find something very similar to Cerro Grande. This is a soil and surface geological map that shows where the high-grade surface anomalies are. So these could be rock samples taken from an outcrop or soil samples that geologists in the past walked in lines and basically recovered these. This is it's a really important part of exploration early stage because it tells you where your hot zones are. Obviously, we can see that the majority of the hotspot is again in that area where we are going to be focusing, which is the Cerro Grande discovery zone. But we have these additional pockets as well that we spoke about, and then we have the very, very large anomaly in Mesquital, which is, very interesting, and we're certainly going to be putting some work in there. Jumping over to the historical discovery, this is what it looks like. In terms of drill intercepts, if somebody's wondering, okay, well, what did you guys, what has been discovered up to this point? We're looking at usually anywhere between, 10 to 40 to 50, 70 meters of high-grade copper, 1.4%. It's very stable, sort of half a gram per ton gold and 50 grams per ton silver across the skarn. And we expect that type of mix between the copper, the gold, and the silver will continue as we continue to expand the project along this 6 kilometer corridor. And here we're seeing the northwest portion of the corridor. Again, this is where we'll be focusing. We're going to be focusing on proving that the skarn is continuing at depth and it's continuing here to the south and that it's continuing here to the northwest. This is the number one priority of our, phase one program and phase two. And then we will also be giving some attention to additional targets down in the south to prove out these additional pods that we see. This is where the project sort of takes on another life in a way. So, what creates skarns is intrusions that form at depth, and then those intrusions, with the help of water, basically release the metals, copper, silver, and gold, that basically are travel up with the water, and then when they meet limestone or a contact rock, they attach themselves to that rock, and that's the skarn. But what creates the skarn is usually an intrusion at depth. It can be a porphyry, it can be a mineralized porphyry at depth. For those that don't know much about porphyries, porphyries are the type of copper deposit where 60 or 70% of the copper in the world is produced. They tend to be very, very large scale systems, meaning they cover a lot of ground. They are basically running for kilometers on end. Often these porphyries are deep. In our case, we see that this intrusion sort of starts around 500 meters. And we are actually drilling currently, we're drilling sort of as deep as we can to get an understanding of the system. Certainly, if we were able to discover not only the skarn, make the skarn bigger, but also prove that we have a porphyry underneath, it would certainly, significantly increase, I would say, the valuation of this project. This is a more technical slide. It signifies that there's a mag low and I'm surrounded by a mag high, both in the Mesquital target as well as the Cerro Grande target where we have the skarn. This is a typical donut, sort of what they call a donut shape for the porphyry, where you have your mag low and the mag high, and usually your higher grade porphyry mineralization is occurring in the boundary zones of the mag low and the mag high. And again, these are untested, so these zones have not been drilled; they're untested. These are proper live untested porphyry targets. Additionally, we see a chargeability running for 2.3 kilometers below the Mesquital anomaly that we just spoke about before. This means, what does chargeability means? It means that when you produce a charge, that electricity passes it's very conductible. So it's most likely sulfides that produce this, and if they're mineralized, then you're talking about, again, a porphyry. This is a forward-looking statement. We don't know if it's a porphyry yet, and we don't know if it's mineralized, but we do see that it has that quality of, hey, it's chargeable. So it's a good sign. And again, that is below the geochemical soil sample anomaly that we talked about earlier that we saw. This is basically the same visualization that we saw before, just moved a little bit down south to show that the same mag low, mag high feature exists at Cerro Grande, just below the skarn. We are actually going to be focusing on proving this porphyry target prior to Mesquital, because for a very simple reason. When you have a porphyry underneath a whole bunch of high grade copper, gold, and silver, even if the porphyry is lower grade, which usually always actually tends to be, your strip ratio, what you would need to unearth to get to the porphyry at depth, say it's 500 meters below, it would actually be monetized. So for a larger mining company, or for us down the road, if we wanted to put this into production, well, we would have a pay zone above the porphyry, and then you get to the porphyry and you've already basically made the project economical before you get to that type of depth. It's way too early to talk about that, and that is not this has not been proven. The skarn's been proven, and we're working on proving that it is bigger, but the porphyry has not been proven. But we see all the right signs. So in terms to wrap it up, this is the concession. Priority number one, as we spoke about, is the Cerro Grande skarn, and priority number two would be these additional pockets of skarn mineralization that continue down south, as well as the priority number three, which is the hydrothermal target at Las Trancas, the Mesquital porphyry target, and the Las Tablas. I should mention that there's also an additional zone we haven't named yet, but it was discovered while we were building roads to access the Cerro Grande for the drill program that we discovered some very high grade copper rocks, and they mimic the same type of rock formations you see on surface at Cerro Grande. So this could be an additional skarn pocket. So what we believe we have is we have a license that has quite a few. This again needs to be proven, but we see the potential for a number of high-grade skarn pods. Cerro Grande certainly is the number one focus, but we would like to prove out these additional pods. And then we see the potential for porphyry intrusion at depth below the Cerro Grande, below Mesquital. Perhaps these are not two separate porphyries. Perhaps it could be one large system underneath. We don't know yet, but that's all the work that we're basically starting now. So just before I wrap it up, just wanted to say we are drilling right now as of January 15th. We continue to drill. Our first results will be out on at the end of January. That's the first results from our first hole that was drilled in 2025, and we're very excited about that. We think it's going to be a very good start to this company's exploration program, and we're excited to continue on. We're also expecting a detailed mag survey to be completed in the next few weeks. And the magnetic survey is important. I should have probably mentioned this earlier. The reason it's important is that we see a magnetite-rich layer of skarn mineralization. And when you have magnetite, obviously it's magnetic. When you do a mag survey, it really jumps out, and it will be able to show us the pockets of skarn that are magnetite rich. And then we know that those are usually correlated with additional skarn layers that are not magnetite rich, but would definitely allow us to vector in and close in on those targets. So for us, really, it's about bringing our thesis and understanding together, having a really good grasp of the skarn system, and then following that up with a phase two drill program where we'll do 10,000 meters of drilling in the Cerro Grande zone, but also in some of these additional pods that we believe will be a new high-grade skarn discoveries. And we want to grow the company's valuation. Our number one goal is to bring value to our shareholders. The structure does not have a warrant in place for a reason. We don't want any ceilings. We want to build a vehicle that's highly leveraged to the price of copper, highly leveraged to a new copper discovery. So that's what we've done, and that's what we will continue to do. And I thank you so much for listening. I hope I did a decent job kind of walking you guys through the project. Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for listening.